And to hear more on the phased-in return to economic activity in the United States and just how the United States continues to battle the pandemic, we're now joined via Skype from New York State by John LeBoutillier, a former Republican member of the U.S. House of Representatives. John, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Simply, good to be back with you. It's still very bad here in New York. We're not really reopening here like they are in other parts of the country.
I mean, we've seen plans being laid out for the reopening of the economy. How do you see this playing out?
Well, as you know, we're 50 different states. Every state is doing it their own way. Some are following the Trump administration's guidelines, and others are doing their own guidelines. Here in New York, our Governor Cuomo has sort of been the leader in the country of how to reopen. We have way more cases here than anywhere else, more deaths than anywhere else, and so he is going to go very carefully. He has delayed any reopening in New York for another 2 weeks, I believe, till May 15th. He's going to consider by May 15th some openings. I think realistically we won't reopen anything much here till June at the earliest, while other states today, like Tennessee, Georgia, Montana, are opening things up as we speak right now.
Well, John, I think Governor Cuomo's plan is dipping a toe in the water to see what the impact will be on the state. And do you think there is a plan to ensure that the reopening is monitored carefully? Because if it's not, then the state will slide back to where it was.
Well, and that's what he wants to. That's what he wants to avoid. And he has emphasized repeatedly that we really can't do this thing properly if we don't have more tests given every day to find out who is infected, who has antibodies. They announced today that New York City, which is really technically the epicenter of this disaster, 25% of the people in New York City have tested positive for antibodies. In other words, they've had the virus. 25%, that's over 2 million people have had it just here in New York City. And what we're not sure about is, are those people immune from getting it again? In other viruses, yes. In this one, there's conflicting data, apparently, about whether you are immune.
Well, New York's lockdown order closing all non-essential businesses, we do understand, will expire on the 15th of May. After that, one then wonders, what criteria will the state apply in opening some of these businesses? Would it solely be the essential businesses only, or would it be the businesses or the sectors where social distancing is possible?
Well, perfect question. Number one, essential businesses first, and only essential workers at the essential businesses. At other businesses, the governor has asked them to reimagine the workplace. So if you have a room where there are 6 people near each other working at cubicles near each other, he's saying you got to reimagine it and have 3 of them in that room separated and put the other 3 somewhere else or have them work from home. In other words, we've got to adjust ourselves to put social distancing in the workplace until we have a vaccine and better testing, not in that order, testing first and ultimately a vaccine.
And Governor Cuomo says schools are necessary for a large-scale business reopening. How so?
I didn't hear you. Schools?
Well, Governor Cuomo said schools are necessary for a large-scale business opening.
Right.
How is that? How so?
Because people can't go back to work if the children are at home.
Right.
So if the kids are off to school, then mom and dad go to work. And right now, all the schools in New York State and New Jersey and Connecticut are all closed. And may stay closed till June. It's unclear. But they are linked together. Child care and going to work are linked together.
So should the schools open, is it going to be a gradual reopening, or they're just going to open for the rest of the year, seeing that they've already lost out?
Well, they don't know yet. They're trying to decide, or do they extend the normal public school year here, comes to an end around the 28th of June, and then they're off for July and August. Maybe because of this year, maybe they'll make them go to school in July. I don't think they want to lose March, April, May, June, July, August. That would be 6 months of no school. I think they'd like to get a month or two in there if they could do it safely. But there is also the problem, if we go back to school, you've got hundreds of thousands of kids in New York City on school buses. Some of them ride public buses and subways, and they get to school and they're with each other. There's no social distancing in a school. And now some kid picks up the virus from another kid, goes home, and off we go again.
John, I think this is a perfect opportunity to revisit the efficiency of the model of working from home. I think it has been a great pilot test to see whether it is really efficient. So do you think most companies will stick to this model of working from home moving forward?
I think more of them will, and I think they'll offer it as part of employment. Maybe not every day, but as part of the work week, you might be able to do a day or two from home. Obviously, the fear of home work is slacking off, that you're paying some guy to be at home and he's watching TV all day. So if there's some way to prevent that and monitor it and make sure they're doing their job, I would think it's going to be part of the new workplace, at least until we have a vaccine, if we get one, and we're all safe to go back out into the public. By the way, the other thing I have to mention, in New York City, if you ever get on a subway in New York, you are crammed close to many people. You are touching the subway pole that they're touching. You're touching the railings. So it's on your hands, it's in the air, you're breathing on each other. That is an incubator for the virus. And yet people can't go to work in New York City without the subway system. So how are they going to get to work when they reopen? Unless they reopen, or the subways are open, but unless they start using the subways again. And how are we going to do that without that becoming an incubator again if infected people are out in public?
Now, John, then there is President Donald Trump. His suggestion that a disinfectant, if it is injected in the body, will certainly fight coronavirus. Do you think he was ill-advised, or was that just an extension of his liberal views?
I wouldn't use the word liberal views. I'd use the word crazy views, that Trump is nutty. And that incident took place last Thursday. Today is Monday, so it's 4 days since then. It hasn't gone away like other crazy comments over the years from Trump. This particular one seems to have really stuck. And maybe is the straw that broke the camel's back, simply, because I noticed that Trump's behavior since then, he's reeling, the poll numbers are down, he doesn't really know what to do. That we may look back on that as the beginning of the end of Trump's re-election right there.
And speaking of which, we certainly cannot view President Trump's outbursts and outlandish outbursts against November the 3rd. Some have even suggested that President Trump is essentially handing over the Democrats the presidency come November the 3rd with the latest outburst.
Well, he's behind in every poll. And these are his own polls and the Republican National Committee polls of 17 key swing electoral vote states, the states that determine who will be president. And Trump's own polls show him losing in all of them. Even states that he should be winning, like Arizona and Ohio and Florida and North Carolina, he's losing to Joe Biden in every one of them. He's losing nationally today in a Suffolk County poll, 50 for Biden, 40 for Trump. On a question of he cares about people like you. Joe Biden gets 57%. Donald Trump gets 39%. Those are bad numbers for an incumbent president in the middle of a crisis. The country should rally to the leader in a crisis. And the fact is, not only have they not rallied them, some people are leaving Trump during the crisis.
You know, President Trump signaled opposition, John, to bailing out the states whose economies have collapsed under the weight of the coronavirus. It may sound like a noble move, but then his opponents, have been questioning why the people and the taxpayers of America should be bailing out poorly run states. So how then do we strike the balance between this and, the noble move that President Trump has suggested?
Well, yeah. The thing is, the states are not poorly. New York is not a poorly run state. And we have more sick people. The hospitals in New York City have been overrun by this thing. The state government has been overrun by it. They have to balance their budget every year. And they've used up all their money and need more money. And so Governor Cuomo has asked Washington, D.C. to send more money to the state for this reason. And Trump, he's not going to win New York State anyway. So he starts attacking it, says we're not giving money to poorly run states. The most poorly run government in this country is Donald Trump's federal government. He can't run his way out of anything. And whether he likes it or not, the Democrats, I'm afraid for him, will get another relief bill within a month that will give tens of billions of dollars to the states that are most overrun, including some Republican states like Georgia and Texas. They're going to need it too. And Michigan and key states that are using up all their money taking care of sick people.
All right, John, thank you so much for your analysis and your views. Much appreciated.
Thank you.